Travelling on a unicycle isn't easy. Compared to bicycle touring, it's slower, more physically demanding, and you have to be constantly vigilant to keep yourself balanced. But as I found out from my 3-year, 22,000 mile unicycle ride around the world, surprisingly there are actually some benefits to travelling in this way. Personally, I just love the physical challenge of the whole thing. Yeah, it's tiring, but there's a serious sense of achievement from looking at a line on a map and knowing that I bloody unicycled all of that. I also enjoyed sharing the sport of unicycling with people who may not have ever seen it before, or if they had, didn't know it could be used for anything other than circus entertainment. But the biggest benefit that I found is that a unicycle is just the greatest icebreaker. I couldn't tell you the amount of conversations I had with people who spotted me rolling down the road and stopped to ask me what the hell I was up to. These interactions often led to being invited to stay in their homes, which were incredible opportunities to learn more about the countries I was travelling through from the local people that actually lived there. This alone was worth the discomfort of travelling on one wheel. If from watching my videos you've been inspired to get into travelling in this way, but don't really know where to begin, this very niche video is for you. So here are my tips on how to get started with unicycle touring. First, and I hope this is pretty obvious, but you need to be able to ride a unicycle. If you don't already know how to ride, but would like to learn, I'm currently working on a video course for complete beginners that will get you up and riding very quickly. As of publishing this video, that course is not yet finished, but as soon as it's done, I'll bung the link in the description for you to check out. But alternatively, there are heaps of great tutorials here on YouTube that will teach you the basics. So you can now ride, but you don't know where to begin with touring. I reckon there are 3 main ways you can go about it. First is a supported tour, where you have a friend follow you in a support vehicle. The benefit to doing it this way is that you don't need to worry about carrying more than a litre or 2 of water and a few snacks, so you can just enjoy being super lightweight and focus on pushing out the miles. I reckon a unicycle with a 36-inch wheel would be pretty ideal for this kind of trip. They're pretty quick, and because you're not lugging any gear around, even steep hills should be very doable. The downside to this kind of tour though, in my opinion, is that it sucks a little bit of the adventure out of it. You're not out there alone, and you know mentally that if something goes wrong, help is just a phone call away. You may see this as a benefit, but for me it was the times when I was out alone, stuck in the middle of a thunderstorm, or needing to bodge the unicycle back together by the side of the road because it just fell apart, that ended up being the most memorable. Maybe I'm just masochistic, but there's definitely pleasure in the struggle. The second is self-supported backpack touring. The big benefit to this one is that you can pretty much use whatever you have right now and just go today. Just throw some camping gear and food in a bag, jump on your uni, and roll down the road. This no-fuss style works well if you want to begin right away, or if you'd like to take a more off-road route on a smaller mountain unicycle. But it does come with one serious drawback, and that's comfort. Saddle sores can be bad enough on the unicycle without any extra load pushing your bum down on the seat. Put 10 to 15 kilograms on your back, and you're in for quite an uncomfortable time. So while just taking a backpack might be a good way to dip your toe into uni touring, I definitely don't recommend it for hundreds of miles. And that brings us to my final suggestion, and the approach that I took on my own world tour. Self-supported touring, carrying all your gear on the unicycle frame itself. With this method, you eliminate the need to carry anything on your back, making riding much more enjoyable. Your arse will thank you. And because with this kind of setup you can feasibly strap 25 to 30 kilos on the frame without it becoming much of an issue, it allows you the freedom to head down some more remote roads, confident that you're carrying enough water. But there are some drawbacks. Mounting becomes much tougher, because now you've got to shift all that weight up and over the balancing point. This can be helped by loading your heaviest gear on the front, but it still takes time to master. But if you want to ride big miles in relative comfort, carrying as much as a bicycle tourer typically would, then in my mind, this setup is the only way. So the question now then, is where do you get a hold of a setup like mine? Because touring unicycles aren't exactly available from local bike shops. While this video isn't sponsored by them, Unicycle.com helped me a great deal with discounts and spare parts while riding around the world, so do with this information what you will. They have many branches all over the world with a huge selection of unicycles, including my own Nimbus Oracle 36er. This is a great choice for a lightweight touring uni, but given the option, try and get one with a steel hub, because the alloy hub that mine originally came with failed after about 5,000 miles. Alternatively, if you're quite short or plan to do some off-road riding, a 32-inch or 29-inch uni may be more suitable. But I certainly wouldn't recommend going for anything smaller than this. Touring on a 20-inch, for example, would be a very tedious task. Alright, so you've chosen your unicycle, but now you need to add a pannier system to carry all of your gear. When I was planning my ride back in 2014, working out how to attach luggage onto the frame was one of the biggest challenges I faced. There were a couple of bike pannier bag systems that I considered modifying to fit, but these really weren't ideal, and there was nothing on the market built specifically for unicycle touring. So I turned to long-distance unicyclist Carrie Gray, and if you don't already know who he is, here's a quick recap. This is Carrie Gray. Carrie unicycles. A lot. About 20,000 miles so far, travelling self-supported through North, Central and South America. His past rides have been absolutely epic, pushing crazy mileages each day through extremely challenging landscapes.
We're doing triple-digit mileage in triple-digit heat! Woo! I love Texas!
At the time, he was the only person I'd found touring in this way. So I sent him an email, because on his website he suggested he may be able to make to order a custom set of unicycle panniers. Luckily, I caught him in between tours, and he found the time to make me a set. But this is only half the story. Back then, he was only making fabric bags, so once they arrived, I still needed to work out how to build a framework to attach them to my unicycle. Luckily for me, my granddad was more than happy to try and put something together. But not everyone is lucky enough to have a granddad willing to spend 2 weeks crafting a custom set of unicycle fenders and handlebars for their grandson. So the great news is that now Carrie isn't just producing fabric panniers, but the complete unicycle touring setup. This is obviously a much easier solution than the one that I found, so if you're interested in getting into unicycle touring, I highly recommend that you check out his site.
Where the unicycle gear came from is firsthand experience. In the beginning, a lot of things weren't available. The 36-inch unicycle was basically the only thing available, and the touring handlebar set. And people have tried a variety of systems, strapping bags on, mostly in the back. And that was the problem, is that as soon as I tried that, I realized that it kind of puts you off balance. And wearing a backpack also is just hell on your butt. So, and nether region. So I decided that I wanted about as much weight on the unicycle as possible. So over the years, from basically 2012 until 2018, over the course of 20,000 miles of unicycling through the US and Central America, and also stopping to fix anything that broke, I was able to develop a system that as a whole system didn't exist before. And that's the comprehensive, all-included unicycle touring system. So that means a rigid fender that doesn't wobble, that's made from reliable materials that won't break when you fall, because unicyclists fall. And then bags, which are made of a thick material with rain flaps over the zippers so that you're not getting your gear too wet. And then the T-bar, which essentially turns your unicycle into somewhat of a bike as far as touring is concerned. And it creates a platform off of which you can build and add bags. And so the reason I'm bringing this system to the world is because, it's something that I developed and put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into, and I'm really happy with, and it's worked for me better and better each time I've worked on it. And it just makes sense that I would share that with people and, have it be one of my projects and offerings to the world that people can purchase and use. And for those of you who are more interested in writing and then figuring out how to get all your gear tied to your unicycle, it's just a matter of going on the website and ordering, and it's a lot simpler than it used to be.
Carrie is kindly offering subscribers of this channel a 5% discount on anything you order if you purchase before the end of the year. All you've got to do is head over to his site and use the code EDPRATT at checkout so he knows that I sent you. So if you're considering getting into unicycle touring, there really has never been a better time. I've already discussed some of my own tips on getting started with travelling on a unicycle, but I was curious to learn if Carrie had any advice to share.
One thing I noticed that I recommend anytime anyone asks me is how to get used to riding with bags. And with my bags, you can start with them empty and just fill them with something lightweight. But you want to, the bags really work best and only really work when you fill them out. So this is both helpful just as a tip, but also as a training tip. Start by filling them with towels, blankets, whatever, and you'll get used to the sensation of weight being so far from your center of balance without it being too heavy. And then you start to add things, maybe heavier clothes, maybe you throw in a couple water bottles in with the towels. And that's what I did back in the day. And that's what I recommend to anyone who's learning how to tour on a unicycle. And that will also help you learn how to mount. So whether you're doing a jump mount or a kind of a step mount, or if you're using a bucket like the Japanese gentleman who toured across the US, a bucket with a string technique, you can look that up. Regardless, you're gonna need to practice so that when you're out on the road next to cars driving by you, that you're not going all over the place just trying to get on. So the way that I recommend is just by starting with weight, using the full bag setup, but with less weight. It's funny because it makes such a big difference if you pack them tightly, because it's that extra momentum. When it's tight, you're a unit with the unicycle. It's, your unicycle is like half your body weight, and all together it's like a horse almost. And it's almost better than a bike, because on a bike touring, you have the front bags and it's a moving part. But on a unicycle, if you pack it correctly and tightly enough or fully enough, it's like it's like you're riding a horse. So it's just infinitely better.
I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I realise the subject matter of this one has been pretty niche, but you've made it this far, so hopefully you've learned something, or at the very least been entertained. To me, it's pretty exciting that there's now a dedicated place to pick up a high-quality custom unicycle pannier system, and I really hope it helps new riders break into the world of uni-touring. Not only because it'd be amazing to see more unicyclists out there on the road, but so that other people can enjoy this very unique way of travelling as much as I have over the years. Thank you for watching. If you didn't know anything about unicycle touring, I hope you do now. And if you didn't know, this is the section at the end of the video where I thank everyone who's supporting me on the 3rd tier on Patreon. So thank you very much. Adam Wan, Alcanthea Beer, Alistair Duran, Campbell Daff, Christoffel Jansons, Damon Walker, Gaia Denavaya, Gary Hull, Jeff and Kelly Elder, Gerald M. Neville, James Wallace, Joseph and Rebecca Chivers, Justin Lewis, Malvin Zen, Mark Paris, Philip Merritt, Stephen Jones, Neil Brooks, Warren Snyder, and finally Wolfie. And Carrie also wanted me to let you know that he's giving my Patreons an extra $25 off. I'm not totally sure how he is implementing that, but if you're interested in buying his bags, then I'm sure you can email him and say, hey, I'm a patron of Ed's. Give me my $25 back. As I say, I don't know how he's implementing that, but it's very nice for him to do that, and I'm sure he will honour his word. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.